Entering Zion Gate. Entering through Zion Gate.
Well, this part wasn't destroyed. This is the Armenian quarter. The Armenians are Christian. It's the earliest natural Christian denomination. As a nation, they converted to Christianity. And they've been present in the old city since the 3rd century. And they live in a fortress inside of the fortress of Jerusalem. This is their quarter. You can see this church, their main church, St. James Church, where they believe the last supper took place. So the Armenians are monophysite. They don't believe in the Trinity. They have been broken away from the Eastern Church. They also have their own belief. It's all Christianity, but they don't believe in the Trinity. God is holy, Jesus is holy, and there is no human side.
So who was Jesus?
Jesus was the Redeemer. And you see it also in their depictions. It's in a state of holiness. To speak of him as a carnal being.
He was never incarnate in their mind.
Even as he was walking, he was.
They would probably believe that he was filled with God's Spirit.
That sounds similar to Mormonism. Jesus was a man who became God.
Well, it's not really. It's more.
That's all right.
You can look up the word monophysite, meaning one aspect instead of three. Monophysite on the internet, you'll get all the details. But they've been present here through all the tumultuous history of the city, and so they have a kind of a special status, but they're also behind the fortress. And the Armenians, suffered a genocide at the beginning of the 20th century.
Did they fight with the Jews?
No, they suffered a genocide from the Ottomans, from the Turks. The Turks slaughtered the Armenians.
But in 48, 49, did they?
No, they're not Arabs. Right?
You protect me. I'll stay inside over here.
Yeah, I think they just, the populations that live in the old city, the Christians, have a very tenuous position. On the one hand, the Armenians aren't Arab. They speak Armenian and they're not Arab, and so they're really in between. Mm-hmm. Like the Druze. The Druze could have been in between, except that they lived under Islam and suffered under Islam very much, and they sided with the Jews. I asked Druze friends of mine, why did you side with the Jews in 1948? And they say, we just knew the right side. We just knew. But they could have sided with the Arabs. They could have. But they fight, and they're very nationalistic. They're very Zionist, and they're not Jews. They're Druze. Sounds interesting. But the Christian populations, some of them are Arab. They're Palestinian Christians, right? It's a very delicate balance for them, I think. And sometimes, some of the strongest nationalists in the Palestinian nationalist movement were Christian 70 years ago. Because oftentimes they were also the most educated. So nationalism was a movement that touched them also. And as a minority, you usually are pretty nationalistic, because as a minority, you want to protect, if there's a nationalist movement, you want to protect your identity also. But that's shifted amongst the Palestinians for sure. It's much more Islamist now and religious, and Christians suffer under the Islamic rule. But then nevertheless, they're still Palestinian. So like the Christians of Bethlehem play a very delicate balance. Because on the one hand, I'm sure that they would all love to be Israeli citizens, but they can't necessarily express that because they're living under Palestinian Muslim rule. And that has become much more Muslim. If you look at Gaza, Hamas is an extremist Islamist movement. Nothing democratic about them and nothing tolerant about them. But you won't get people, even in interviews in Gaza, I saw an interview where they asked one of the Christian leaders, how is it living under Hamas? What is he going to say? Horrible?
Yeah.
We're okay, we're doing fine. It's not going to say anything negative. You can't say that. Also, as far as that goes, a Palestinian can't express his dissatisfaction with the ruling government. On the other side, here they can.
Monophysism doesn't speak of anti-Trinitarianism. It speaks of the nature of Christ not having two natures, human and divine, but one nature. that is either all divine. That speaks of the nature of Christ, not necessarily anti-Trinitarian, but is speaking of the nature of Christ. We would believe that Christ has a divine nature and he is fully God. And the other is that he has a human nature, he's fully man. And the hypostatic union of Christ takes those two natures into one person. They deny that, and they say that Jesus was either partly God and partly man with one nature, or that his nature was fully God and not human. That his nature is fully God. So there are branches of them both. So it's more concentrating on the nature of Jesus than on the Trinity.
Right.
Right.
It just defines itself in contrast.
Yeah.
And it was very early on in Christianity, this split. And it's not a major split. They're all Christian, right? It's just very subtle.